यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So, I welcome you all to our weekly Friday Bhagavad Gita class. Uh, in this class, we are trying nowadays to do a theme on various topics from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. So, we've been continuing with the glories of Madhavendra Puri. So, not last week, but 2 weeks before, we did two classes, two sessions on the pastimes of Sri Madhavendra Puri, wherein we spoke from the Madhya Lila of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit, the fourth chapter, where Madhavendra Puri's pastimes are described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, which is very nicely compiled by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in his book called Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is the autobiography of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's been a gap of 1 week. So I'll just refresh our memory what we discussed so far. So in this chapter, Mahaprabhu is traveling on his way from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri after taking sannyas, and on his way he comes to a place called Remuna. In this place called Remuna, there is a very special deity called Sri Khirichor Gopinath. Now, the Kirichor Gopinath name came because of Sri Madhavendra Puri's intimate pastime with Sri Gopinath. So, remembering Madhavendra Puri at that place, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is reciting or narrating the glories of Madhavendra Puri to all the devotees assembled there. So, Mahaprabhu mentions that once Sri Madhavendra Puri, he was traveling and on his pilgrimage, he came to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, he was doing Govardhan Parikrama. Govardhan Parikrama is one of the most sweet and one of the most fulfilling and one of the very uh, dear activity of all the devotees all over the world. This Govardhan Parikrama is happening since time immemorial, or since Krishna did his pastimes at Govardhan Leela. So Shri Madhavendra Puri, he was, doing his parikrama and is completely immersed in the divine pastimes of the Shri Krishna and Shri Radhika. So he comes and he is residing at a place called Govinda Kund, and he is simply absorbed in his meditation. And in this meditation, he is not eating or drinking anything. Seeing this, Krishna himself, he takes the form of a small boy and brings a milk to Madhavendra Puri. And Madhavendra Puri was so much attracted by this boy. Hmm. And then the boy said that I'll come in a short while to get my pot back. And Madhavendra Puri drank the milk and then he fell asleep. And in his sleep, he had a dream. And the dream, the same boy came in his dream who fetched him milk. And this boy said, actually, I'm Giri Govardhan, I'm Giriraj. Uh, I'm the same one who lifted this Govardhan hill. But my deity form is there in the forest some years back because of the threat of the Muslim king. The pujari hid my deity form in this forest, and I've been since then. I'm here now. Madhendra Puri, please take me out. I'm been very hot, very cold, and I'm very much hungry. So Madhendra Puri, he came out of the dream and he brought all the Brajbasis together, and he went to the same place where Sri Giriraj or Sri Giri Govardhan instructed him, and there they discovered the beautiful deity of Sri Gopal, which we many of us we also know it as a Sri Srinath Ji. So then Madhendra Puri, he installed that deity on top of the Govardhan hill as instructed by Krishna himself. Then there was a huge festival, and it festival went for months and months and months. There was a wonderful offering by the Brajavasis and all the villages around the Vrindavan, and not only in Vrindavan but all over India. People were doing every day a festival in honor of Sri Gopal. And this way, the 2 years passed. So actually, that was our first session, and in the next session, second session, we covered the pastimes of Sri Kirichur Gopinath. So in second session, we discussed that Madhendra Puri, after 2 years, again one day, Sri Krishna, Sri Gopal comes in his dream and asks Madhendra Puri that I've been in that forest for a long, long time and my body is still feeling hot. Please bring some good chandan from Malaya Hill, which is near Jagannath Puri, and apply it on my body. So Madhavendra Puri, without any delay, the next day itself, he starts traveling from Vrindavan to Jagannath Puri. So those days you have to walk. There is no modern facilities of travel were available there. So he walked and walked and walked, and in his travel he comes to a place called Remuna. The Remuna, the deity is very famous. It's called Gopinath, and the history is that this is the same deity that once, when Lord Ramchandra during his exile, he came to this place, and Mother Sita, she asked that, my Lord, in what will be your next incarnation? When will you come next? And what will be your pastimes? So Sri Ramchandra describes that in the next incarnation will come as Krishna, and then Sri Ramchandra, he describes the pastimes of Krishna, and he, with his arrow, he carves one deity of Krishna, and the deity is then so lovingly worshipped by Mother Sita, and it was named Gopinath. And then Mother Sita and Shri Ram, they gave this deity to a local Brahman. And since that day, that means from Treta Yuga itself, uh, the the deity is being worshipped. So when Sri Madhavendra Puri came to Remuna, he was so much attracted by this form of Gopinath. And he was asking, the pujaris, what is the best offering you're offering to Gopinath? How do you worship him? And he comes to know that uh, they offer a special kheer called Amrita Keli to Gopinath. And this Amrita Keli, it is a special offering to Gopinath. It only is prepared in this place called Remuna. No other place this kheer is prepared. So right at that time, the pujari comes, and it's time for the offering to Gopinath, and he's offering those kheer to Gopinath. And that time, because Madhendra Puri is, his yesterday is Gopal, so he is, thinking that this kheer must be very good. So if I get little taste of this kheer, then I can make the same preparation for my Gopinath, my Gopal, when I get back to Vrindavan. But hearing this, he thinking like this, he is not happy with himself. He said, "How can I think of eating before Gopinath is honored? Gopinath has eaten this kheer." He says, I'm an offender. I shouldn't be thinking of eating before Krishna eats. So he comes out of the temple, he offers his obeisances and goes to a secluded place. Meantime, the offering is done, and then the Gopinath comes in a dream of the local pujari, the pujari who has done the offering. I said, "My dear pujari, uh, one of my very pure devotee, Madhavendra Puri, had come to take my darshan, but he is fasting today. So for him, I stole one pot of kheer for him. So I am hiding this pot of kheer behind my clothes in the altar. So please go collect it and give it to Sri Madhavendra Puri." And Pujari becomes, so excited, that he is that the Lord has given this special instruction to him. So he takes his bath and goes straight to the altar, and lo and behold, the Gopinath, he has hid one pot of kheer to for Madhavendra Puri. And then, as instructed by Gopinath, this Pujari, he goes to the marketplace. He skips, he starts shouting, "Madhavendra Puri, please identify yourself. Gopinath has stolen kheer for you. This is the kheer for you. Please, where are you? Where are you?" And then finally, the Pujari finds Madhavendra Puri, and Madhavendra Puri, listening from him that how Gopinath is so merciful. Uh, he just remembers Gopinath and cries and cries. And then Madhendra Puri eats the kheer, which is stolen by Gopinath himself. And then he makes pieces of the earthen pot, and he will eat a small piece of pot every day, because this is the pot personally stolen by Gopinath himself. But then Madhendra Puri, he thought, if I stay here more, people will come and start glorifying me, that I am the one. For me, the Gopinath stole the kheer. So Madhendra Puri was not at all interested in his own glorification. So immediately he leaves that place. Then he goes to Jagannath Puri. But before he reaches there, his fame has reached there, and Jagannath Puri, everyone knows that this is the Madhavendra Puri. For him, the Lord Gopinath has stolen kheer. Uh, so in Jagannath Puri, then he arranges the chandan wood for Sri Gopal, and he makes all the arrangement. Then he again travels back to Vrindavan. Again on the way back, he comes to Remuna, and he again takes the darshan of Sri Gopinath. And by this time, the whole Remunavasi were very much, in awe and reverence of Madhavendra Puri. They receive him so nicely, gives him lots of prasadam, especially the kheer. And one day, while he was taking rest, Madhavendra Puri was taking rest. Gopalji again comes in his dream. He said, "My dear Madhavendra Puri, there is no difference between me and Sri Gopinath at Remuna. So you please offer this chandan to Sri Gopinath, and you make a paste of chandan and apply on the form of Gopinath, and I will receive all the comfort of cooling my body when you apply this chandan to Gopinath. So, as instructed by the Lord, uh, next day onwards, Shri Madhavendra Puri makes all the arrangement to make the chandan paste of those sticks, and they apply the paste to Gopinath. This is chandan plus camphor. They add camphor in it. It is a very soothing and very cooling effect which gives to one's body. Right now, in the northern hemisphere, especially in the part of Indian subcontinent, it's a very hot weather. Since that day, the Sri Chandan Yatra festival is celebrated all over, northern hemisphere, especially in the part of India. If you see many of our deities, they are covered with chandan. You will take darshan of Sri Radha Madhav in Mayapur in Vrindavan, and practically all major temples in the world. And the Lord is offered this chandan to commemorate this service offered by Sri Madhavendra Puri to Sri Gopal and Sri Gopinath. And this is the time when we stopped our second session. Today is our final and concluding session, where we will try to understand and learn and take some wonderful teaching from the life of Sri Madhavendra Puri. So we will continue now. Start reading from the remaining part of the fourth or fifth chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's It's a fourth chapter. Uh, we are not many of today gathered here today, but we'll take turns now. So one devotee, he can read 20 shloka. I will just share my screen now, and we can all take turns, and we can start reading now. So I will read three shlokas to start with, and then somebody can take over from there, and you can read the 20 shlokas from there on. So this is the Chaitanya Charitamrit, fourth chapter, shloka 168 and onwards. So this is what we are reading from Chaitanya Charitamrit, um, shloka 168. In this way, sandalwood pulp was smeared over the body of Gopinath until the whole stalk was finished. Madhavendra Puri stayed there until that time. At the end of summer, Madhavendra Puri returned to Jagannath Puri, where he remained with great pleasure during the whole period of Chaturmasya. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally praised the nectarian characteristics of Madhavendra Puri, and while he related all this to the devotee, he personally relished it. Now, may I ask one of the devotees to please read the next 20 shloka from 171 to 190, please.
Hare Krishna, I'm reading. Can I read?
Please, Rajkumar going through. Please begin.
Thank you, Prabhu. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Nityananda Prabhu to judge whether there was anyone within the world as fortunate as Madhavendra Puri. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said Madhavendra Puri was so fortunate that Krishna personally appeared before him on the plea of delivering milk. 3 times the Lord gave him orders to Madhavendra Puri in dreams. Being obliged because of the loving affairs of Madhavendra Puri, Lord Krishna himself appeared as a Gopal deity, and accepting his service, he liberated the whole world. On account of Madhavendra Puri, Lord Gopinath stole the pot of sweet rice. Thus he became famous as Shishchora, the thief who stole the sweet rice. Madhavendra Puri smeared the sandalwood pulp over the body of Gopinath, and in this way he was overpowered with love of Godhead. In the province of India, governed by Muslims, there was so much inconvenience in traveling with sandalwood and comfort. Because of this, Madhavendra Puri might have gotten into trouble. This became known to Gopal deity. The Lord is very merciful and attached to his devotees. So when Gopinath was covered with sandalwood told Madhavendra Puri, Puri's labor became successful. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu placed the standard of Madhavendra Puri intense love before Nityananda Prabhu for judgment. All his loving activities are uncommon. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, indeed, one is struck with wonder to hear of his activities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, Sri Madhavendra Puri used to remain alone. He was completely renounced and always very silent. He was uninterested in everything material. And for fear of talking about mundane things, he always lived without a companion. After receiving the transcendental orders of Gopal, this great personality traveled thousands of miles just to collect sandalwood by begging. Although Madhavendra Puri was hungry, he would not beg food to eat. This renounced person carried a load of sandalwood for the sake of Sri Gopal. Without considering his personal comfort, Madhavendra Puri carried one manhood, about 82 pounds of sandalwood and 20 tolos, about 8 ounces, a comfort to smear over the body of Gopal. This transcendental pleasure was sufficient for him. Since there were restrictions against taking the sandalwood out of the Orissa province, the toll official confiscated the stock. But Madhavendra Puri showed him the release paper given by the government and consequently escaped difficulties. Madhavendra Puri was not at all anxious during the long journey to Vrindavan through the province governed by Muslims and filled with unlimited number of watchmen. Although Madhavendra Puri did not have a farting with him, did not have a farting with him, he was not afraid to pass by the toll officers. His only enjoyment was in carrying the load of sandalwood to Vrindavan for Gopal. This is the natural result of intense love of Godhead. The devotee does not consider personal inconvenience and impediments. In all circumstances, he wants to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Gopal wanted to show him intensely Madhavendra Puri loves Krishna. Therefore, he asked him to go to Nicholas to fetch sandalwood and camphor. With great trouble and after much labor, Madhavendra Puri brought the load of sandalwood to Ramuna. However, he was still very pleased. He discounted all the difficulties. To test the intense love of Madhavendra Puri, Gopal, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ordered him to bring sandalwood from Nilakla. When Madhavendra Puri passed this examination, the Lord became very merciful to him. Such behavior exhibited in loving service between the devotees and devotees, lovable object Sri Krishna, is transcendental. It's not possible for common man to understand. Common men do not even have the capacity.
Thank you very much, Kumar Prabhu. That's very kind of you. Mother Kumar Prabhu, would you like to read the next 20 shloka, 191 to 210?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Text 191. After saying this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read the famous verse of Madhavendra Puri. That verse is just like the moon. It has spread illumination all over the world. Continuous rubbing increases the aroma of Malaya sandalwood. Similarly, consideration of this verse increases one's understanding of its importance. As the Kostubimani is considered the most precious of valuable stones, This verse is similarly considered the best of poems dealing with the mellows of devotional service. Actually, this verse was spoken by Srimati Radharani herself, and by her mercy only was it manifest in the words of Madhavendra Puri. Only Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has tasted the poetry of this verse. No fourth man is capable of understanding it. Madhavendra Puri recited this verse again and again at the end of his material existence. Thus, uttering this verse, he attained the ultimate goal of life. O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? Is that the verse, Prabhu? Text 197?
Yes, that's the verse. Yes,
That's the verse. Okay. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited this verse, he immediately fell to the ground unconscious. He was overwhelmed and had no control over himself. When Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell to the ground in ecstatic love, Lord Nityananda quickly took him on his lap, crying. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then got up again. Exhibiting ecstatic emotions, the Lord began to run here and there, making resounding noises. Sometimes he laughed, and sometimes he cried, and sometimes he danced and sang. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could not recite the whole verse. He simply said, Aidina, Aidina, repeatedly. Thus, he could not speak, and profuse tears were in his eyes. Trembling, perspiration, jubilant tears, shock, fading of the bodily luster, disappointment, moroseness, loss of memory, pride, joy, and humility were all visible in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body. This verse uncovered the door of ecstatic love, and when it was exhibited, all the servants of Gopinath saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dance in ecstasy. When many people crowded around Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he regained his external senses. In the meantime, the offering to the deity had been finished, and there was a resounding arati performance. When the deities were laid down to rest, the priest came out of the temple and offered all 12 pots of sweet rice to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When all the pots of sweet rice remnants left by Gopinath were placed before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became very pleased. In order to feed the devotees, he accepted 5 of them. The 7 remaining pots were pushed forward and delivered to the priest. Then the 5 pots of sweet rice the Lord had accepted were distributed among the 5 devotees, and they ate the prasadam. Being identical with the Gopinath deity, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already tasted and eaten the pots of sweet rice. Yet, just to manifest devotional service, he again ate the pots of sweet rice as a devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed that night at the temple engaged in congregational chanting. In the morning, after seeing the Mangalarati performance, he departed. In this way, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally tasted with his own mouth the transcendental qualities of Gopalji, Gopinath, and Sri Madhavendra Puri. So, Prabhuji, are there 2 storylines going here together, isn't it? We've moved from Madhavendra Puri to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the space of 20
yes,
verses.
yes,
Because Madhavendra Puri was double senior to Mahaprabhu, isn't it?
yes, yes.
Ishwar Puri's spiritual master. Yeah, it took me a while to realize. Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So just remaining last 3 shlokas. Thus, I have described both the transcendental glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's affection for his devotee, and the highest limit of ecstatic love of God. One who hears this narration with faith and devotion attains the treasure of love of Godhead at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I Krishnadas narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. So thus hence the 4th chapter from the Madhya Leela of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shri Madhavendra Puri ki Jai. So, my dear devotees, will come back to a particular shloka in this chapter, shloka 197 later on. Now let's understand first the mood of Sri Madhavendra Puri and Madhavendra Puri's glories and his instructions and his exemplary life is unlimited. We can only take few drops, uh, and we can drown in those drops, and learn some higher truths of devotional life. So Madhavendra Puri, he let's he we as a we ISKCON devotees, we come in a parampara. We are called Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. So our sampradaya comes from Lord Brahma. There are four sampradayas: Brahma Sampradaya, which comes from Lord Brahma; Rudra Sampradaya, which comes from Lord Shiva; Sri Sampradaya, which comes from Lakshmi Devi; and Kumar Sampradaya, which comes from four Kumaras. So there are four sampradayas. We come in the Brahma Sampradaya. So in a Brahma Sampradaya, the whole Krishna gives this knowledge of spiritual realization, this transcendental knowledge to these four sampradaya, and Brahma is the chief of them. He is the first one in this one of the fourth line. So Brahma's disciple was Narada Muni. Narada Muni's disciple was Vyasdev, and then there are many other disciples. Then comes the Madhvacharya. Actually, Madhvacharya, he personally receives the knowledge from Srila Vyasdev, and then Madhavendra Puri, then his disciplic succession. And then as the disciplic succession grows, there are various branches. Like in a tree has a trunk, and in the trunk, when the tree grows, there are various branches, and this is how the tree becomes very big. So then one branch of Madhva Sampradaya, so there is a Brahma Madhva. So Madhvacharya, in Madhva line we come. So Brahmaji and Madhvacharya. In Madhvacharya Sampradaya, then comes one branch which is called Gaudiya Sampradaya. So Brahma, Madhava, Gaudiya Sampradaya. This Gaudiya Sampradaya actually starts from Madhavendra Puri. He is called the trunk or trunk of this tree of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this shloka 197, Prabhupada in the purport, it describes it very nicely. So we'll read that later on. So Madhavendra Puri, we can learn so many things, but one teaching that he is teaching us is the complete surrender to Krishna. The story that we have heard so far, he is a renouncant, he is a sannyasi. He has no material possessions whatsoever, and he has taken Ajachaka Vrat, that he will not beg any time. He will never beg. And the Lord gives him so many services. We said, because of his intense love for Krishna, Krishna likes to served by him. So we talked, in last few sessions that Krishna, he is a supreme personality of Godhead. He is the supremely powerful person. But then he comes in a dream of Madhavendra Puri and says, I am the same Krishna who lifted Govardhan hill, and I'm my pujari hid me here, and I'm very feeling hot. You please install me on the top of Govardhan hill. Now same Krishna, why is he saying I need your help? Why? Because he likes to be served by his loving devotee. So then, Krishna, as he said, is, we hear in Sri Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Pranachati. That Krishna, he is, whatever we offer to Krishna, Krishna is interested only if it is offered with love and devotion. He is interested in the love and devotion of his devotee. And Madhavendra Puri's life is full of love and devotion for Krishna. So Krishna wants to be served by his devotee. So then, he's instructing Madhavendra Puri to please install me on the top of Govardhan hill. And then, under the leadership of Madhavendra Puri, the whole beautiful temple is established. And because of this one devotee, Madhavendra Puri, now we have this, this glorious, the darshan of Shri Srinathji, Same Gopal, just discovered by Madhavendra Puri, now is worshipped by Srinathji in Nathdwara. And till today, thousands and millions of devotees, they go and take darshan of Sri Srinathji. Hmm. And remember, the various, and then so many people get purified, by now Srinathji is worshipped by the descendant of Sri Vallabhacharya. Uh, so because of Madhavendra Puri, the door of devotional river is open and everybody can take bath in it. And then Madhavendra Puri again, he was instructed by Gopal that I am very hot, please bring me some chandan. So again Madhavendra Puri is a sannyasi, he has no money. And to buy chandan, it is as good as buying a gold. Uh, but again, following the instructions of the Lord, he goes. uh, and then there's a pastime happens in Remuna with Gopinath. And then he goes to Jagannath Puri and he manages to get, it says, how many was it? 80 pound, so which is about 40 kilo of chandan. It is not a, a cheap thing to buy. So one may ask that um, uh, how come Madhavendra Puri managed to get this chandan? So here we get a wonderful lesson from the Lord, from the life of Madhavendra Puri. Actually, I heard it in one of the class that when we take up this service for the pleasure of Krishna, actually Krishna, he is arranging everything for it. We are just the instrument. As soon as we begin this service for Krishna, Krishna arranges everything. So I forgot where did I heard this, but this devotee was very wonderfully explaining the pastimes of Vasudev. When Vasudev, when Krishna was born in the prison cell of Kamsa, Krishna told him, take me to Gokul. And that time, he was in jail. His whole hands were shackled. He couldn't even walk. And there were guards everywhere. And how can he go out of the jail? But he did not ask a single question to Krishna. I said, Krishna, you are telling me to take you to Gokul. You are the Supreme Lord. Why don't you go yourself? And besides that, even if you want me to take there, look at me. What don't you see? I'm so limited. Vasudev did not ask even a single question. He said, yes, Krishna, if this is what you want to do, he simply lifted Krishna and started walking. And immediately all the shackles were removed. The door of the prison got opened. All the guards went to sleep. Then there was a big, thunderstorm was happening, but still, there was all the obstacles were removed by Krishna. So what do we learn? As soon as we take up the service of Krishna in our hand, as soon as we begin our service, all the obstacles goes away. The obstacles are there as long as we do not begin our service. Sometimes, we think those things are so difficult. How can we do it? And we see the same principle in the life of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, he was given instruction by his Gurudev, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. You are an educated person. You should speak to the English speaking people in the world. So Prabhupada, he took that instructions with like a life and soul. And he arranged, he took a sannyas. He had practically no money. And on those days to go out of India, it was so difficult. You take so much formalities, so many permissions you have to take. Prabhupada did everything, and he went, with a 40 rupees in his pocket, which was told it can't even convert into America. He went by a cargo ship. It took more than 30 days to go from India to America. And there we went to America. He was living, in a grahastha's house. There was not much scope there. And then, he moves to New York. His typewriter gets stolen. Once he was attacked by a crazy hippie, but he never gave up. He did not ask a question to Krishna, how will I do it? He says, Krishna, you have brought me here. There must be some purpose. I let me just become the a puppet in your hand and make me dance the way you make me you want me to dance. And then Krishna, he gave all the facilities to Prabhupada to start a worldwide movement, uh, and propagate the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the one lesson we learn from Sri Madhavendra Puri, Srila Prabhupada, and all our previous acharyas, that service is the most important thing. And many times, the service are on the face, it looks very difficult, very troublesome, very big service. But the trick is that as soon as we take that service in our hand, everything gets arranged by the Lord. So in the Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu is remembering the troubles that Madhavendra Puri went through. He had no money, still, he somehow managed to get those chandan, and then he has to pass through so many borders. In many of the places, even those days, there were customs. There were various kingdoms were there, and you have to show proper paperwork, that these are not smuggled goods. Uh, and it was a very difficult effort Madhavendra Puri had to take. So then Madhavendra Puri takes all the trouble, and then finally, and then Mahaprabhu remembers that Krishna was so pleased with him, with his service. So he says, no more need to go to all the way to Vrindavan. You can apply the chandan to Gopinath in Remuna. So this is this great lesson that we can learn from the life of Madhavendra Puri. Service is our life and soul, and we should do our service as instructed by our Gurudev, our superiors, our authority. Uh, and it might feel difficult, but as soon as we take the service in our hand, give it our best shot, and then success is all ours. Because I heard once that when Krishna gives any service, he gives power to succeed in the service too also. We have to have a faith in it. So this is one lesson that we learn from the Madhavendra Puri. There are many other lessons we can learn, but due to the limitations of time, we won't go in much detail. But at this time, let's now read the purport of the 197th shloka of Chaitanya Charitamrita and listen from Prabhupada what Prabhupada mentions of this shloka. Now, my dear friends, this shloka, as it is mentioned in this in pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is a very esoteric shloka. It is mentioned that this shloka was personally spoken by Radharani in separation of Krishna. And it is said only 4 people knew the actual tattva or the poetry of the shloka. Who are these 4 persons? Krishna, Radharani, Madhavendra Puri, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So who are we specially? I'm not at all qualified to go even anywhere near closer to this shloka, but taking the shelter of Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet, we will just recite not the shloka but the translation and hear the purport of Srila Prabhupada. So anybody would like to read translation and purport of this shloka, please?
Yes, Prabhu, I can.
Yes, Meenamataji, please go ahead.
So the translation, O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The uncontaminated devotees who strictly depend on the Vedanta philosophy are divided into 4 sampradayas or transcendental parties. Out of the 4 sampradayas, the Sri Madhavacharya Sampradaya was accepted by Madhavendra Puri. Thus, he took sannyas according to Parampara, the disciplic succession, beginning from Madhavacharya down to the spiritual master of Madhavendra Puri, the Acharya named Lakshmipati. There was no realization of devotional service in conjugal love. Sri Madhavendra Puri introduced the conception of conjugal love for the first time in the Madhava Sampradaya. And this conclusion of the Madhavacharya Sampradaya was revealed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he toured southern India and met the Tattvavadis who supposedly belonged to the Madhavacharya Sampradaya. When Sri Krishna left Vrindavan and accepted the kingdom of Mathura, Srimati Radharani, out of ecstatic feelings of separation, expressed how Krishna can be loved in separation. The devotional service in separation is central to this verse. Worship in separation is considered by the Gaudiya Madhava Sampradaya to be the topmost level of devotional service. According to this conception, the devotee thinks of himself as very poor and neglected by the Lord. Thus, he addresses the Lord as Dina
Dayadra.
Dayardra Natham. As with Madhavendra Puri, such an ecstatic feeling is the highest form of devotional service. Because Krishna had gone to Mathura, Srimati Radharani was very much affected and she expressed herself thus. My dear Lord, because of your separation, my mind has become overly agitated. Now tell me, what can I do? I am very poor and you are very merciful. So kindly have compassion upon me and let me know when I shall see you. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always expressing the ecstatic emotions of Srimati Radharani that she exhibited when she saw Uddhava at Vrindavan. Similar feelings experienced by Madhavendra Puri are expressed in this verse. Therefore, Vaishnavas in the Gaudiya Madhava Sampradaya say that the ecstatic feelings experienced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his appearance came from Sri Madhavendra Puri through Ishvara Puri. All the devotees in the line of the Gaudiya Madhava Sampradaya accept these principles of devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mother. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. So, my dear devotees, I take your blessings and prayers and shelter of Srila Prabhupada. I'll just speak about something about from this verse. So, Madhavendra Puri, the shloka that he recited when he was at the peak of his ecstasy, at the last few, it's the last time of his stay in this material world, and he was completely immersed, in separation of Krishna. He is saying, Krishna, where are you? Where are you? This is called love of God in separation. And Prabhupada very nicely expressed that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he received that mood, from Madhavendra Puri through Ishvara Puri. So if you all see, the wider picture, that Mahaprabhu, why the reasons Mahaprabhu came into this world. There are many reasons, and one of the reasons was that Mahaprabhu wanted to experience the love of God as experienced by Srimati Radharani. That and not just love of Radharani, but the most intense love of Radharani. And most intense of love of Radharani was when Krishna left for Vrindavan, left for Mathura from Vrindavan. And that love of Radharani was so intense. So Mahaprabhu came to experience that love. And the second reason Mahaprabhu came because Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, but in the mood of a Radharani. And Mahaprabhu's incarnation is Audarya. He is the most munificent, most merciful incarnation. He has come to give this love of Godhead, the most precious love of Godhead to everyone and all and everyone. So Mahaprabhu, uh, he is there for many reasons, but these are the two prime reasons. He came to this world. And Mahaprabhu, following the proper Guru Parampara etiquette, uh, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Krishna, but he likes to glorify his devotee. So before Mahaprabhu came, he first sent his intimate devotees, those who are the Rasika Bhaktas, those who are, the relishing this love of God in separation. So first he sent Madhavendra Puri. And this Madhavendra Puri, he completely demonstrated, how the devotion should be done in the separation of Krishna. And then Madhavendra Puri is very illustrious disciple. Madhavendra Puri had many disciples, but one of the most famous was Sri Ishwara Puri. And he also demonstrated the same intensity and in love of God as his guru, like Sri Madhavendra Puri. And then Mahaprabhu, he accepted Sri Ishwar Puri as his spiritual master. And you see in the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita what we heard now, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just by hearing this shloka, he would go in ecstasy. He'll fall unconscious. And he said, that he could not even recite the full shloka. He will just recite two words, Oh Dayadra, Dina Dayadra, Dina Dayadra. He went completely in ecstasy. He was jumping and dancing. And Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami mentions that this is the most intimate things. We, people from Manchester and UK, I don't know whether we are qualified to go even near, to this very intimate shloka. But through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have some access to this shloka. And we get the inspiration, the goal that someday, we want to come close to understand this shloka and perfect our spiritual life. I won't go much ahead in this shloka. Maybe someday we may ask some great devotees, to take you further deep in this particular shloka. So my devotees, I stop here, and I am very grateful to all of you, especially Gonatrash Prabhu and all the devotees, that you gave me this opportunity of these last three sessions to glorify Sri Madhavendra Puri. This is a great opportunity for personally for me to know more about Madhavendra Puri, and I wish and pray that you also might have benefited in last three sessions. So I'm very grateful to all of you. So if anybody has any questions or comments, or if you like to just remember some of the points that we discussed in last three sessions, then please share. As we repeat what we have heard, the whole katha becomes more nectarian. So even if it's something which you liked more about, very much about Madhavendra Puri, please feel free to share. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Just one takeaway, Prabhu, just faith in the instruction of the Guru and carry out the service with confidence instead of looking at the limitations. Just push ahead if the Guru is advised, and the Lord will make arrangements for us to eventually carry out.
Wonderful, Prabhuji, wonderful. Yes, yes. You are doing that service very nicely, your service of distributing Srila Prabhupada's book. So I think you've very nicely digested that principle in your service.
With everyone's help. It's a team effort.
Thank you, Sumatu Radhika Mataji. You also are a very Rasika Bhakta. You always relish this class very nicely, and you don't say anything, but you put some very nice comments in every classes. So Thank you very much, my dear Sumudradhika Mataji, my Dandavats at your lotus feet, Mataji, for encouraging me and all the devotees. Thank you so much. Any questions or comments? No, then I hand over to Gonatrash Prabhu. If he has any announcements or any informations to share, please Gonatrash Prabhu, you may begin now. Okay, so I have message from my mobile from Gonatrash Prabhu that there are no announcements. So, but yeah, I'll just make one announcement that this Sunday there will be a class given by Radha Vinod Prabhu on the prayers of Shri Prahlad Maharaj to Narsimdev. So please do come on Sunday, and I wish all of you a very safe passage from COVID. We are mostly coming out of these difficult times, and hopefully very soon we'll meet again at temple whenever the conditions becomes suitable for all of us to meet together. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Nitai Gaur.
जय प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल
Hare Krishna.
मातरभ्यश्च कृपाचन्द्रभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः
Hare Krishna.
जय श्री हरे कृष्ण।